What do you say when a client asks what results you've gotten in the past? So, when you're interacting with clients and you're trying to cold pitch them, you might be afraid that they're going to say, well, what are your conversion rates? What have you done for clients in the past? This usually is a fear that writers have that doesn't necessarily even happen. We're just afraid that clients are going to ask us that question. Now, this is a very valid fear. This is something that I had early on in my writing career. I was terrified that somebody was going to say, well, what is your conversion rates? You say you're a conversion copywriter. What numbers can you display? And I want to explain to you why that actually never happened to me, why lack of numbers never held me back. And in this video, I'm going to explain why this fear is not valid, why it doesn't have to hold you back from becoming a highly paid freelancer. As some of you may or may not know, I am a content marketer who also hires writers and assembles teams of writers where I act as the lead writer to kind of refine voice and tone and communicate with the client. So what I want to do for you is pull back the curtain to make you understand what a client is actually looking for. Then I want to explain to you what your role is as a writer. I think we all need this refresher. We all need this reminder of what role we actually play. And the importance of me expressing that to you is that when a client asks for something, you can feel confident going forward because you will remember, hey, what is my role? What are my actual responsibilities? What's in my agreement in this working relationship? And should you be feeling insecure for not offering something that goes above and beyond the responsibilities of a writer? So I want to show you to not have your confidence shaken by these requests. And then I want to actually share with you guys something that Ray Edwards said to me. I had the opportunity to get on a Clubhouse call with him. Ray Edwards is a really well-known copywriter. He is the author of this book, How to Write Copy That Sells. He is somebody who's really knowledgeable. So I was super psyched to get on this Clubhouse call and ask him this question. And what I asked him was, hey, what do you do when you need to show a testimonial or some proof that your writing is effective, but your clients don't even share that information with you? Because that was the boat I was in, was that my clients were not sharing those stats with me. So I'm going to share his answer to that question and kind of how it changed my view or my paradigm of my writing career just based on his answer to this one question. So all of this is going to be really helpful. So let's just hop right into it. The reason this doesn't have to hold you back as a freelancer, this whole thing of having numbers, having results from your clients, is that it's not really valid. It's not something that clients are going to ask you about. And here's why. As a writer, you are not always going to have access to those stats. Majority of the time, you will not have access to those stats. So you can write the best blog post in the world, and your client could make a lot of money on it, can get approval and get praised and get celebrated at work. And you might not know about it, right? So sometimes as writers, the best indication we have that our writing is working is whether or not the client is still working with us and giving us work month after month, whether you can actually get them on retainer. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about what you can do to get those numbers, because let's be honest, it's always going to be more compelling if you're able to say, I increased conversions by 35%. This blog post attracted 15,000 viewers in 2 weeks. Obviously, right? But what happens with freelancers is that we psych ourselves out thinking that we need certain things before we can go out and pitch clients and be successful and make money. It's kind of like LinkedIn. So if you've taken my LinkedIn course, if you have downloaded my free resources on how to use LinkedIn to get clients, you would know that one of the things that I say is that you don't need to be on there posting content. I know that's what the platform looks like it's for. It's what they're encouraging. But being in the DMs, meaning the direct messages and the messaging feature of LinkedIn, is where I want all my students to focus their attention and their efforts, because it's the most direct way to get a paying client. You can interact with your clients directly on that platform. Whereas if you're just going to post a couple times a week and hope that a client magically reaches out to you, it's not impossible, but it's not necessary. It does require a strategy. It's more of a passive approach to getting clients. Of course, it would be amazing if you said to me, hey, Christina, I want to start this content strategy on LinkedIn to try to get clients. Great. I mean, if you have the time to do that, I am all for it. I mean, the sooner you start, the better, because that thing takes so long to get up and going and get the engagement and grow the audience. So my tactics focus on what can you do right now to get results quickly, not these long-term marketing strategies, which is a whole other conversation. And I would say the same applies to this conversation about numbers and results. That is something you can get eventually from your clients, and I'll explain how, but it's not something that's going to make or break your ability to get clients. Pulling back the curtain, that's part 2 of this conversation, as somebody who hires writers. This is not something I would ever ask a writer for. I look at the portfolio. I look at the samples in the portfolio. I look at the pitch that they sent me. I even look at testimonials. I've never once asked, hey, what is your conversion rate? From a content marketing perspective, this doesn't make sense to do because conversion rate in marketing is based on so many different factors. As a writer, you write a blog post, you submit it to your client, you write a nurture sequence, you submit it to your client. What they do with it is usually out of your hands. Furthermore, all of the factors that go into conversions are so out of your control, such as site speed, such as website structure. Is it optimized for SEO? Is the design optimized for SEO? Backlinking, all of these things that a company, a brand has to do to build authority. How big is their email list? So yeah, you wrote the email, but if it's going out to 100 people and they've never communicated with that audience before and they're not primed, that's going to impact the results of those email numbers, right? So even if you're a terrible writer and you walk into a situation where somebody has a really engaged audience, well, if you're getting insane conversion rates, does that have to do with how engaged the audience already was or how amazing your email was? So it actually doesn't make sense to even be thinking about our writing in terms of those numbers. Yes, they are nice to have, but they're just not always going to fall into your lap. Most content marketers and people who hire you are very busy and do not bother sharing their results with you. So this is the analogy I want to use. The company you're working for, the brand you're working for is the bride and the groom, right? And you're just a bridesmaid. I'm just going to use an analogy from my life. As a bridesmaid, I know I have a part in the wedding, but I know that I'm not the main show here. The brand and the company, that's the bride and groom. They have a relationship. They've started this thing that has nothing to do with you, right? You're just there to play a support role. Now, you're not even a wedding planner, right? Like the wedding planner is the marketing person who puts all the systems in place to make sure that everything gets executed, right? Again, you are a bridesmaid. You're one part of the big production. You're not the main show. You're not the brand. You're not the couple. You're not the wedding planner. You don't execute. You're submitting your work to have a marketing manager usually execute it for you. Remember that you are a bridesmaid, not a bride. You are a bridesmaid, not a bride. And that's something really easy to remember because there's this saying, always a bridesmaid, never a bride. That's you. Now, let's get to what Ray told me because it's going to really allow you to think differently about your role and what you can do to actually be more involved. So I got on a Clubhouse call with Ray Edwards, the author of How to Write Copy That Sells. As you can see, I am highlighting and bookmarking and going nuts. It's a really cool book. I really like reading copywriting books. They're not the end all be all in terms of getting clients. It's just continual learning. So I have a whole video on why copywriting books are not always the best for people who are just starting out in freelance writing, but that's a whole other video that I can link to. I got on a Clubhouse call with Ray Edwards and I said, Ray, I understand that numbers and clicks and conversions and all this stuff is compelling, but as a B2B technology freelance writer, this is not something that my clients actually share with me. So what can I do to create a compelling website for my writing services when I don't have those numbers? And what he said to me was interesting. He said, the fact that you don't have those numbers tells me that your clients don't think of you as a true business partner. You are being more of an order taker and you are not involved in the overall strategy. You're completely like sequestered into this little role as a writer. And that it's unfortunate that clients do treat writers that way, but it is what it is. So I found that answer really interesting. What he was basically saying was that I don't have those numbers because my clients are not thinking of me as anything more than a writer. What that helped me do was actually say, hey, my goal moving forward is to provide more value to my clients, to assert my opinion and my marketing knowledge earlier on in those introductory conversations so that I will be taken seriously, not just as a writer, but as a consultant, a writer that understands their business, who understands their audience, who understands their overall marketing strategy. And that is the best way for me to start getting that information to showcase, for them to actually be sharing how much traffic the blog gets that I write, what the click rates and open rates were on those emails. That is information that is not always shared with contractors, but you can become that business partner, that consultant, if you position yourself right out of the gate. When you first talk to them and say, hey, this is what I'm interested in. I help companies do this. So in order for us to work together, I think it would be great if you shared these stats with me so that we can really work on A/B testing and improving this situation. Then you start to be seen as a consultant. You can definitely charge higher rates. Now, let's not put the car before the horse. If you are just starting out in freelance writing, it's okay if none of this even comes on your radar for the first year or two of your writing career. What you should really get good at is writing, is getting assigned pieces, writing them well, and making clients happy to the point where you have repeat business. That is how you improve. If you go into this thinking, now I have to be a writer and a marketer, it's too overwhelming. We have to keep things simple. Just like how I say with LinkedIn, don't go in there trying to be a thought leader from the get-go when you don't even know what the platform is. It's overwhelming enough. You don't need more on your plate. Do the absolute minimum to get the maximum result, also known as the 80-20 principle. So with conversion rates and showing results, I would say don't put the car before the horse. If you are focused on building your portfolio and requesting testimonials from your clients, this is what I teach you how to do in my LinkedIn course, that is compelling enough. So the short answer to this long video is that this is not something you have to worry about when you're a beginner, but it is a nice aspiration and it is nice to have. Now, I have an email template packet. It's called the Freelance Template Playbook that shows you word for word how to answer certain requests. I know for me, one of the templates I included in here was how to answer the request of, do you do SEO? This is something that clients mistakenly ask writers. Hey, do you do SEO research? Just so you understand, guys, you usually have to have a paid tool like SEMrush or Ahrefs to conduct SEO research. SEO is an entire job in itself that people hire out externally or source out to an agency. And I'm not saying that offering that wouldn't make you more competitive. It will. But I don't want you to feel obligated as a writer to say, yes, I know how to do SEO research. So I actually show you in my template packet, the Freelance Template Playbook, how to respond gracefully to that request and say, actually, while I do understand SEO and while it is a strategy that I incorporate into my work, that's a separate job. And if you want that, that's going to cost X, Y, and Z dollars. So you will see a link below to access the freelance template playbook. It has basically every interaction with a client, word for word, that you can customize, copy, and paste. And the reason I created this template packet is that my course, 30 Days to Paid, teaches you how to get your foot in the door with clients and how to open up these conversations and how to position yourself as a freelancer. But then my students requested information on what happens next. What do I say when a client says this? They've given me the opportunity, they've paid me, but I want to get them on consistent retainer work. And that's what this template achieves. It's like, hey, here's how to open the conversation and cold pitch your clients. And here's now how to get them on retainer. Here's how to set boundaries with them so that you don't hate your life working for them. If you, like, something I've learned, guys, after years of freelancing, and it took me a while to learn this. I wish I had learned it sooner. But it's kind of like a life thing too. When you set the tone for a relationship in the beginning, it dictates everything that happens. So just like relationships, if you're dating or you have friendships and you let people walk on you and step on you and take advantage of you and whatever in the beginning, it's just human nature. They're going to continue to bulldoze over you. They're going to continue that behavior. So what you have to do in life and in freelancing is set the tone from the beginning. You do need to set boundaries, friendly, polite, yet firm boundaries. And that's what these templates allow you to do, is say, hey, I want to say this to the client, but I don't want to sound rude. I don't want to ruin the relationship. I know how tricky those conversations can be. I had to learn one by one how to interact with clients. And it's hard because as a freelancer, you are this solopreneur who does not have somebody over your shoulder or a boss that you can ask, hey, how do I respond to this email appropriately? So it winds up feeling like the Wild West. And that's what this template book accomplishes. Please go and download it. If you're looking for something free, download my guide to LinkedIn. It will show you how to actually set up your profile and what to do and how to navigate that overwhelming platform without creating a content strategy and becoming a thought leader and all this stuff. So I hope that helps, guys. Go easy on yourself. Know that you don't have to be a marketing genius to become a freelancer, and you don't need to know conversion rates in the beginning. Do you want to start landing high-paying freelance writing clients on LinkedIn? I have a free guide for you at paidcopywriter.com. Just go to paidcopywriter.com and go to the free download section. The link is paidcopywriter.com/LinkedIn guide if that's easier for you. But it's a free download that's going to show you step by step the steps. Wow, that's a lot of steps. Step by step, the steps. Step by steps, a roadmap for how to use LinkedIn and get yourself properly set up on that platform so you can begin confidently reaching out to your ideal clients and build the freelance business that you've been wanting to build, becoming self-employed, becoming a person who gets paid to write for a living. Download that at paidcopywriter.com/LinkedIn guide, and I look forward to seeing you there. Bye.